In John's Gospel, Jesus says on that last night before his crucifixion, with all the disciples gathered around that table in the upper room, Jesus says, "In my Father's house there are many rooms." It was a wonderful image to leave his disciples with, and wonderful image to leave us with, an image of a heavenly house where there is room for all of us, a room for everyone. But if you think about it a little more, it becomes kind of a chaotic image if there are no house rules. If heaven is a place where it's just about us and our relationship to God, then we can imagine everybody else kind of being in the way, and then heaven becomes a chaotic, maddening place. But if heaven is instead a place with house rules, where we're meant to care for each other and to love each other and to be present for each other, well, then heaven begins to look a little bit more like, well, heaven. We could begin the work of preparing for heaven now, especially in this strange time. And we can do so in three ways. First, we can do so in the world. Soon there will be a loosening of restrictions that are on us, and that'll give us a sense that we can go back out into the world. But when we do, we need to remember that we do so at the peril and risk of others, and that when we hold back, maybe we do so as well. We have to hold all of those concerns, the safety concerns and the economic concerns. We have to hold all of them together and remember that others have needs. There are people out there who are in physical vulnerability and economic vulnerability, who are lonely and fearful. As we venture back out into the world, we need not test those limits, but rather think about how all the more we can care for those. Care for those who are around us, care for those we know, and care for those who might be in the checkout line in front of us. The second way we can do this is in our commitments that we've made. If you're a member of a religious community, if you're a member of my church, well, now is a time to reinvest in the relationship and the commitments you have made. If you are a baptized person, then there were vows that were made at your baptism, or you made vows at your baptism, vows to be part of the community and stick together. If our job as priests is to entertain, well then this virus has made everything a lot harder, because my job is not to minister so much as to keep you engaged. But if we remember the vows that we've made and the commitments that we have with one another, well then we remember that we're still all in it together and we're called to be present for each other. If you're not a part of a religious community or a church, well then you have a family, you have a network of friends, you have people that you've made commitments to. Don't let them slip now. It'll be easy to, it certainly feels that way, but now's the time more than ever to reinvest in them and to see old friends as new. The third way we can do this is in our relationship with God. I imagine the volume of prayers that God has heard over these last few months. Prayers like, why is this happening? Or help me get through this, or take this away from me, put things back the way they were. But I imagine there's a smaller fraction of prayers that have been offered that ask instead, Lord, what do you need from me? How can I care for others? I admit that most of my prayers are in the former category. Lord, help us get through this. But I am beginning to ask more and more, Lord, help me help others. Help me be present for others. And I think that's good. I think that calls us to remember the needs of others and that God has put us here for a reason. You see, God didn't cause this virus to happen, but God did cause you to happen. And God put you here for this moment. So you are ready for it. Ask next time you pray, Lord, why am I here for this moment? What skills can I bring? What gifts can I offer? And maybe when you do, that'll cause you to look up your phone and find an old contact that you haven't talked to in a while and reinvest in that old relationship, make it new again, or to do so with the way you treat others out in the world. We can begin to live out the house rules now. And when we get there, we'll say, yeah, this feels a little bit more like home.